did that intentionally. There's like a lot of like white and gray and black in here. A lot of people like warm feeling studios and stuff, but like for me, this is like where I work. I have to, come out here and do my thing. And I don't feel like I'm going to fall asleep in here ever. So like sometimes I'll do the opposite. I'll like turn the lights like on, and like I don't have any windows in here, so I don't know what time of day it is. And like some sort of like sometimes the sort of separation from the outside world and like the kind of lack of easily accessible creature comforts is really helpful to me.
Interesting.
Yeah, like it's just, because all I'm doing out here is I'm mixing. Like I'm making art, and I have the tools that I need to make art. Like I kind of think of it as like a painter's studio or something. Like most of the time when you walk into like an art studio or something, the walls are white because you're going to be working on a canvas. You need that context that's blank so you can evaluate what you're working on, right? And I kind of like when I'm working by myself, try to have some of that same mentality. But
sounds like you're a visual guy.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah,
it's I guess everybody works differently,
Yeah, totally. I don't really like if I have stuff that's less cluttered, it's like less distractions. I'm on a Mac, and so I have it synced to my phone, which most of the time is great. But like just turning that notification thing off and making the notifications come from different places and stuff is really helpful. And like, granted, like I do other, like, I work for Scary Pockets. I have a job like doing that stuff. So I got to be available sometimes, but kind of being intentional about making pockets for that and
scheduling.
Yeah. Even better, like being intentional about making pockets for mixing. That's like really helpful to me. Like, I mean, all that being said, like there's definitely times where I'm like, I have 10 things to do and everybody wants them tomorrow, and that's going to be impossible. And then sometimes working through like, I'm naturally a bit of a people pleaser, which probably makes me a like decent mixer. I'm a bit of a people pleaser. And so sometimes like those sorts of deals stress me out, and I end up being like less productive and stuff. And I probably need therapy or something to work myself out of that. Like I'm not 100% sure like what to do like with that particular situation. Like I kind of internalize.
I resonate with that, man.
Yeah, it's hard, man.
Bro. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Wow. Dude, let's move on to the sauce segment because we could go all day.
Oh yeah.
I have too many questions. Like I'm not even going to try to get to them.
Totally.
But so you sent me a couple tracks. I think let's do both of them because I think that could be cool to hear like two different sides of the equation of what you do.
Yeah, sure.
So the first song you sent me is by a band called Couch, and the song is called Still Feeling You. So we'll listen to about 90 seconds of it and talk a little bit about what went into it.
Yeah.
Sound cool?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, see you when I'm sleeping, gone when I wake. 'Cause when I'm all done dreaming, you fade away. Well, I know it's been a year since we talked about our fears at night. Don't know why we called it quits. We just couldn't quite commit. But darling, I'll admit that maybe I'm still feeling you. I'm still feeling you. What you gonna do? 'Cause I'm still feeling you. Hey, tell me what you're thinking. Don't hesitate. 'Cause when you call me sweet thing, I melt away. Well, I know it's been a year since we talked about our fears at night. Don't know why we called it quits. We just couldn't quite commit. But darling, I'll admit that maybe I'm still feeling you. I'm still feeling you. What you gonna do? 'Cause I'm still feeling you.
Yeah, man. That second chorus is totally different than the first chorus.
Oh yeah.
with the I love the kind of like filtered bass thing that you did in the first chorus, and the second chorus is like, here's the lift.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So tell me a bit about that track. Like, what went into it? I know that that they're like a self-produced band.
Yeah, man.
Guess,
they're pretty new. That's the first EP that they've put out, and I've just been stoked that they're like letting me work on their stuff. Like they hit me up, and just because of like the other bands that I've worked with, like, hey, you want to mix this stuff? And I was like, yeah, like, but I opened up the session, was like, whoa, this is great. Like I love this. It's so fun, and like there's such good vocals and such good arranging and all of that stuff. Yeah, like part of the process with this is like when I get like songs to work on, like from like really great producers and stuff, my main goal as a mixer is to sort of start with just enhancing the producer's intent. And like, like this is a self-produced band, but like, I listen to their reference mix, and well, I guess there's two goals. Like the main goal is to like, I just got to beat the reference mix, which normally that's not like, it's not like the hardest thing to do. But the other thing is to like listen to it and to get a feel for what's going on with the tracks, and then see what they were trying to do, and like use what I know how to do and use my skills to like elevate their piece of art. This track was a little tricky. There's just a lot of stuff going on and a lot of tracks. And so like opening up something like that, it ends up being a lot of organization right off the bat. So, when there's stacks and stacks of background vocals, like just like organizing them, and like sometimes I'll move stuff into different, I'll do it a little differently than the band was thinking about it. Cause I'm imagining like, okay, like these 5 tracks are really just one part. So I'm going to put those together and
right,
blah, blah,
right,
blah.
Right.
Cause I mean, I don't really care about like musicians' names and things like that when I'm, working in Pro Tools. It doesn't always matter so much. I'm more thinking about like, how is this part like shaping the song? So like, the beginning,
that's like the forest versus the trees,
right? Totally. And so like the beginning of this one was this was a lot. I think it was mostly like sample drums, which not all their songs are like that. It's just this one, it's got that sort of hard hitting pop disco thing, and it just kind of made sense to use like sample kick and snare. But the first thing that I almost always do is I just try to get the drums to the point where I like listening to them, and where they're groovy and punchy and fun, and like where they, where they're dirty enough that they don't sound like samples anymore, and just getting the vibe out of that. And then with this track, kind of after sort of the like, where is everything supposed to be in relation to each other, and like what's my best guess at where that is supposed to be, it just ends up being a lot of like carving for a while. So again, like earlier I was talking about guitars not taking up a ton of space, just giving them the space that they need, and using some transient shaping to get stuff to pop out at spots if you need it to. Then obviously like EQ and compression to sort of do the same thing. Just kind of giving everything its place, but making it groove and work together well. With this song in particular, it's kind of all about the section breaks. So like that filtered bass thing that you were talking about, like, so I mixed the song, and when I started from the top, when I got to that section, I was just like a little disappointed, because it needs to elevate, but it can't elevate so much that the next verse is bigger. So like that means that it's got to be something different. Like it can't be, it's the chorus, so it can't be smaller than the verses, but it also can't be like the next verse needs to feel like a drop as well, because it's kind of this like long arc, the way that the song's working. So like, doing the filtered drums and bass thing kind of felt like a way to do that. A lot of times, like there's a ton of different tricks that you have to kind of make like dynamics within a song work. I pretty regularly will just like roll off the subs for a section and then put them back in for the next section. I think that's a pretty typical top pop thing. So I did that, and then I really wanted to make that. I love that bass, but like the rest of the arrangement, there's so much going on that it can't sort of take the front and center position, whereas I had the opportunity to do that with that line in this section because it's just, kick, bass, and vocals. So like, let's make that thing grimy and in your face and loud. And then, when the sub kicks back in, it disappears a little bit, but it's sort of, I don't know, like when I'm listening to the next section, it kind of feels like it retains some of that grit, even though it's not actually there.
Yeah, it's about like figuring out a way to make everything flow right. And yeah, I think you did a good job with that because it's like, I'm assuming they didn't ask you to do it. That was kind of like, this needs that extra, as Nigel likes to say in Spinal Tap, push over the cliff,
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. They didn't, I feel like they knew that they wanted something to happen in there, but they hadn't like figured out like what the solution was yet. And so like what we did work a lot on was, I didn't do the best job of muting all the reverbs and stuff at the break. And they were like, Caleb, you got to like mute everything. Like there's a couple of breaks in the song. There's one, I think there's one after that. Maybe it's right before that chorus, where like all of the verbs and everything drops out. And like they knew that they wanted that, and they knew that they wanted something different in that chorus. But it was kind of a with our powers combined sort of deal right there.
Nice. So they were like super involved in the mixing process because it was kind of like finishing the production almost.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I kind of prefer that kind of thing a lot of the time. Like it's fun. Like I like when artists let me sort of like contribute to like the dynamics of a song, and like like I almost always. Like I always talk to artists before I get like weird with sounds and stuff like that. But like, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. But sometimes you can tell that like when people send you stuff, they're like, I kind of like what I have already. Like I've spent so much time with it. Like I've heard that I need to get it mixed, and like you work on stuff that I like. And so here, I'm going to give it to you. And like in those situations, I'm a lot more like lightheanded. But, sometimes you need to do some processing or like really mess up a sound to get it to work right. Like I think on that song, like some of the guitar tracks and stuff, I really thinned out, and then I distorted them, and then I like made them big again, just because they were taking up a lot of the same space as other things that needed more sonic space. And yeah, it's fun. Each of those little things.
You did a good job with the electric guitars. They really fit in that just the right spot there. Like they're very focused, Oh,
thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, the thing is like with that song, it's actually produced really well. Like the arrangement is really good. The horn parts are written really well. Like they had a lot of intent behind it. And so my job was just to sort of like carve out like what needed to happen in order to get that vision across. I'm always all about like giving credit to like the musicians and producers and stuff, because like the reality is that that's kind of what gives the life to the song. Like I can help enhance that and things, but like there's just no replacement for like a really, really great performance. Like there's you can totally get away with like okay recordings and like home recorded stuff. So I will say that like one thing with this project is a lot of this was recorded they're like all in or just out of college, and so they were recording remotely because they did most of this project during COVID. And so a lot of it was just recorded through like, Scarlett's or something.
Totally.
And as much as I'm glad that like those kind of interfaces exist and like we can do that and everybody can make music, like the reality is that when you have a ton of tracks that are stacked on top of each other that were all recorded through a Scarlett, the stuff that makes a Scarlett becomes very apparent.
Yeah,
like
those issues compound on themselves.
Yeah, like I am not a like a snob when it comes to like preamp choice and stuff like that. Like I'm really a use whatever is available to you sort of guy. But sure. I will say, like as a mixer, stuff that was tracked on a nice desk with nice preamps is normally easier to mix. I mean, granted, if you're in that situation, it's a nice room and you probably have nice instruments and all that,
right.
all that jazz too.
There's all those other things.
Yeah. So a lot of
people
times,
don't talk about the trenches, right? They don't talk about like what actual recordings that are getting mixed sound like.
Yeah, totally.
There's usually a ton of cleanup.
Oh yeah, I do so much cleanup on stuff. Oh, and a lot of the times, all I'm doing is like I'll put a like distressor on there where it's not doing anything. It is not distorting yet. Like I'm using it like with almost like the meter's just kind of moving a little bit, but all that does is add that